Hello, I'm Aditya. Thanks for being here. Here we examine ideas from different angles, including the uncomfortable, the unpopular, and sometimes the contrarian. Not to be difficult, but to be honest. Because the best ideas are not the ones that sound good at first, they're the ones that still hold up after real scrutiny. Let's get started.
Today's discussion is first in the series of meditation as medication. Not something you try, not something you get into, but something you administer carefully, deliberately, and for a reason. And like any other form of medication, three things now matter. First, the ingredients. What exactly are you taking in? Is it breathwork, attention, training, silence, or just noise dressed up as calm? Because not all meditation is equal, and some of it works against you. Second, the doctor. Who are you trusting to guide you? Because vague ideas, vague advice sounds good until it doesn't work. At some point, you need something more than inspiration. You need something that actually holds up under stress. And third, the pharmacy. Where are you sourcing this from? Apps, teachers, systems, habits. Some are reliable, some are diluted, and some are just marketing. Because the goal here is not to feel better, it is to function better. And that starts with the understanding of what you're taking, who you trust, and where it comes from. I tried doing everything right this week. You know the routine. Sit down cross-legged, close your eyes, focus on your breath, exactly the way every meditation app tells you to do. And within about 45 seconds, my brain decided it was the perfect time to replay conversations from 2016. Not even important ones, just deeply unnecessary highlights of social awkwardness. And somewhere in the middle of all that, there's this instruction you always hear. Just come back to the present moment. And I kept thinking, what does that actually mean? Because be present sounds profound until you try to do it for more than 10 seconds. At a surface level, meditation feels simple. Most people think of it as some mix of relaxation, stress reduction, maybe a little bit of spirituality, if you are inclined that way. Or increasingly now, productivity. Calm yourself down so you can get back into your life, into your work, just slightly more efficient. But underneath all that, there's something more fundamental going on. Meditation isn't really about relaxing. Relaxation happens, sure, but it's more of a side effect. At its core, meditation is practice for noticing your own experience, which sounds almost trivial, until you realize we don't actually do that very often. Most of the time, we are not experiencing things, we are thinking about them. And this is where things start to get interesting. There's a distinction we don't usually make between attention and awareness. Attention is like a spotlight. It picks one thing, your breath, a sound, a thought, and zooms in on it. Awareness is different. It's more like the entire stage, the space where everything is already happening, whether you're focused on it or not. And meditation, depending on how you approach it, is either training that spotlight or allowing you to notice the whole stage. If you're training attention, it feels almost like going to the gym. Focus, drift, return. Focus, drift, return. Over and over again. But if you shift into awareness, you're not trying to control what shows up anymore. You are just noticing it. And strangely, that can feel harder. Because the moment you stop trying to control your mind, you start to see how much is actually going on. It's like opening a closet you assumed was organized, and everything falls out. Thoughts, sensations, random fragments of memory, half-formed worries, just a constant stream. And that leads to a slightly uncomfortable question. If all of this is happening all the time, when are we actually in the present? The idea of the present moment is very clean, very neat. Be here now. But experientially, it's not clean at all. Your mind is constantly moving past, future, interpretation, narration. Even when you think you are present, there's often a quiet voice in the background going, "Ah, yes, this is it. I'm present now." And the moment that happens, you are not. So if the present moment is supposedly all we ever have, why is it so hard to stay in it? Maybe the problem is the way we think about now. We tend to imagine it as a single instant, like a frame in a video, but experience doesn't really work like that. It feels more like a moving window. There's always a little bit of the past lingering, memory still echoing in the background, and there's always a little bit of the future creeping in. Anticipation, expectation. So the now isn't a point, it's a span, which might explain why trying to pin it down feels impossible. It's like trying to stand still in a river. The water keeps moving whether you want it to or not. Now, to be fair, it's worth asking, are we overcomplicating something simple? Humans have been living their lives for a very long time without needing to dissect attention and awareness. And sometimes this kind of introspection can backfire. You start watching every thought, analyzing every action, reaction, and instead of becoming more present, you become more self-conscious, less natural. Meditation can quietly turn into another performance. Am I doing this right? Is my mind supposed to be this busy? Which is ironically the opposite of what it's trying to do. So there is a valid argument here. Maybe we are better off just living rather than constantly observing ourselves living. And yet, people keep coming back to it. Across cultures, across generations, so something is happening. One of the more subtle things meditation seems to offer is space, a small gap between what happens and how you react. Even a tiny bit of distance, instead of immediately being pulled into a thought or emotion, you notice, okay, this is happening, and that alone can shift how you respond. So maybe the goal isn't to stay perfectly present all the time. Maybe it's simply to notice when you're not. If you step back, meditation isn't just relaxation. It's not just focus training either. It's a way of changing your relationship to your own experience. Less being completely inside it, more seeing it as it unfolds. And that can go in different directions. It can make things clearer or more complicated. It can make you calmer or more aware of how restless you actually are, which doesn't always feel like progress. So maybe the more honest way to think about meditation is this. It's not inherently peaceful, it's revealing. And what it reveals depends on what's already there. So the question becomes, are we trying to experience reality more clearly or just finding a slightly more sophisticated way to escape it? And if we did see things clearly, without distraction, without filters, would that actually feel better or just different?